Epic boon feats seem like the kind of thing that doesn't really need to be decided up front. You don't get one until level 19, and only a handful of games even make it that far. The thing is that if your table is one of those lucky tables to make it all the way to 20th level, then the decision on whether or not you're going to multi-class is really a decision on whether or not you get to have your epic boon. So the real question is not just how good are they compared to one another, but are these so good that they're worth staying single-classed? So today I'm going to answer both of these questions for all of the epic boon feats. Thanks for joining me. My name's Timothy, though some people do call me Tim. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm on a quest to hit 10,000 subs by the end of the year, and your sub really matters because if you help me get there, you get the perks. Assuming we make it by the end of the year, I'll do a series of parodies with my granddaughter Jay LaBelle, run a one-shot game and record the homebrew of it, and we'll have a community party hangout session just on YouTube for fun anyway. Epic boon feats are a new feature of the 2024 Player's Handbook, replacing the old epic boons that was the leveling option for after level 20 that was presented in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Epic boon feats all share some things in common, including the fact that they add +1 to an attribute of your choice with a limit of 30 from this point on. Obviously, that doesn't really matter when you get your first one at level 19, but if you are to continue play after level 20, then epic boon feats are the way that you're supposed to do that, and so you could creep your way up towards that titanic level of strength, dexterity, con, or whichever mental stat you might choose. Because of the fact that every class has these as an option at level 19, every single class character gets access to epic boons, but if you dip even 2 levels out of your class, then the first time you're going to get an epic boon is if you hit level 21 in your campaign, which is even rarer than hitting level 20 in the first place. For today's ranking options, we'll have a simple system of being always good, build defining, build dependent, niche, or crap. And what I mean by that is this. Always good feats are good no matter what class, build, etc. that you might have. This doesn't necessarily mean that these are the most powerful feats, just that no matter what character you're playing, these will be good on that character. It's worth taking them if you can. Build defining feats are those that are going to take the build that you've already run and amp them up to a completely new level. They can and probably will potentially be better than always good feats, but they're not going to necessarily be the choice that everybody is going to pick. For the right build, they're amazing. For the wrong build, they might just be always good or might not even be all that good. Build-dependent feats can be good or not so good depending upon the build that you have. They might be flexible or general in application, meaning that they might be kind of useful to most people, but they're typically not going to be your go-to choice like an always good would be if you're not looking for a specific build feat. Niche feats are only good on very specific niche ideas or themes and could still be powerful in the right space, but they're not going to be something that fits into the norms. And crap feats are pretty much just what they sound like. I only selected one epic boon that fit into this category, but frankly, the fact that it exists in the form that it is a little bit frustrating, and I really wish that they had done something else with it. It's probably not worth taking unless it's changed or unless you have a very specific mentality. And then the final ranking to answer our other question on whether or not it's too good to multi-class is basically just going to be a yes or a no. We like to keep it simple around here. So without further ado, let's get started and we'll talk about the Boon of Combat Prowess. In addition to a +1 to the ability score of your choice, this feat gives you a Peerless Aim ability. When you miss with an attack roll, you can hit instead. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until the start of your next turn. This might be too good on some rogue or barbarian builds. Guaranteeing your brutal strike or your sneak attack takes a lot of the guesswork out. While for classes like fighter or monk and potentially ranger, who are unloading a flurry of attacks and just really dishing out lots of attack rolls, this is only going to increase your accuracy a little bit. This needs to be put in on a character that is trying desperately to land that one big terrifying whammy. And so how good is it? I would say that it is build defining. If you have a specific build that is just going to dish out absolutely massive damage with that singular attack and you can't afford to miss, then this feat is going to amp that up to the next level. But for everybody else, it's a solid boost and probably always good, but it's not going to be the be all and end all. The Boon of Dimensional Travel gives you blink steps. Immediately after you take the attack action or the magic action, you can teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see. This feat is amazing, but is it too good to pass up on? Probably not. It won't redefine everything about your character and is probably not even going to take a character that's focused on movement to a new and ultra powerful level. Instead, it's probably more likely to free up some bonus action economy and provide you with some much needed movement, particularly if you didn't already have that option available to you. This feat is always good, but probably never so powerful that it's just going to change your world. The Boon of Energy Resistance gives you 2 new features. The first, as you might expect, is Energy Resistance, giving you resistance to 2 of the following damage types of your choice: acid, cold, fire, lightning, necrotic, poison, psychic, radiant, or thunder. Essentially, everything except the physical damage types and force. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can change your choices. And then it gives you energy redirection. When you take damage of one of the types chosen for the energy resistance's benefit, you can take a reaction to direct damage of the same type towards another creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself that isn't behind total cover. If you do so, that creature must succeed on a dexterity saving throw, DC 8 plus your constitution modifier and proficiency bonus, or take damage equal to 2d12 plus your constitution modifier. Is this too good? Unfortunately, definitely not. Defensive abilities just do not pack quite as much punch as offensive ones, especially when they're niched down into specific energy types, which, though you can pick, you do have to predict before you encounter that specific situation. And so while the versatility on this one is awesome, and it could probably be paired well with a Wild Heart Barbarian in order to round out their defenses, it's just not going to move the needle enough in order to change the game and how it's played for you. And the reaction of blasting energy is just too little damage too late in the game to be truly impactful. So how good would I say this one is? I would call it a niche ability that might fit really well on some specific builds, but is not going to be build defining. On to the Boon of Fate. You can improve your fate because when you or another creature within 60 feet of you succeeds on or fails a d20 test, you can roll 2d4 and apply the total rolled as a bonus or penalty to the d20 roll. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until you roll initiative or finish a short or long rest. This might just be too good to pass up on for a controller character. I'd be hard-pressed not to take it on pretty much any bard that I played, especially a lore bard. For your average build though, I would say that this one's probably pretty easy to pass over without any strong regrets. This boon is always good, but certain kinds of players are going to enjoy it more than others. The Boon of Fortitude, on the other hand, increases your hit point maximum by 40. In addition, whenever you regain hit points, you can regain additional hit points equal to your constitution modifier. Once you've regained these additional hit points, you can't do so again until the start of your next turn. Unfortunately, rarely will this be so good on your character that you'll feel bad about multiclassing out of it, so I'm going to call it a nay on too good. But how good? I would say that it's relatively build dependent in this case. If you've got a means of regaining minor hit points built into your build or into your group so that round by round consistently you're going to gain some hit points, then this additional boost to your recovery is going to be really potent. For instance, a champion fighter, an ancient's paladin, or a life cleric are going to see the most use out of this feat. For most, it's just going to be a nice generic boost that improves the healing that their healer puts out and gives them a few extra hit points to work with in the game. But it doesn't make or break anything. The Boon of Irresistible offense starts with the ability to overcome defenses. The bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage you deal always ignores resistance. Also, the overwhelming strike. When you roll a 20 on a d20 for an attack roll, you can deal extra damage to the target equal to the ability score increased by this feat. The extra damage type is the same as the attack's type. Notably, this says ability score, meaning that it is talking about the actual statistic that you have, not the modifier, meaning that for most characters you're going to be talking at this stage of the game, well, a number higher than 20 added to your critical hits, if you're only critting on a 20. Anybody who's going to be fishing for crits and has a regular means of getting advantage and lots of attacks is going to be getting a lot of extra damage out of this. It doesn't say in here that you can only use this once per turn, so multiple crits in a round are going to be multiple massive whammies, really giving a great benefit to the new and improved dual weapon fighter. But the first ability of actually overcoming resistance is a hard one to judge just how good that is or is not yet. Once we know, we'll know whether or not this is a must-have or just a would-like. So unfortunately, my yay or nay on whether or not this is too good relies upon that information, so I'm going to leave it squarely in the middle. If there are a significant number of creatures resistant to physical damage in the endgame, then this is a chance to double your hit point damage on all of your attacks for those kinds of characters. If there aren't a bunch of those creatures, on the other hand, then it's pretty much a non-necessity. That said, because of the overwhelming strike portion of this, I would say that on some builds this could even be considered build defining. It's going to take the flurry of blows that you're dishing out and tune it up to the absolute next level as it adds in this massive pool of extra damage, probably on a round by round basis if you've got a regular means of getting advantage and you're pumping out 4, 5, 6, or as many as 10 attacks in a round. For fighters, I would seriously consider this every time. The Boon of Recovery comes in two parts, like several others. First is Last Stand. When you'd be reduced to 0 hit points, you can drop to 1 hit point instead and regain a number of hit points equal to half your hit point maximum. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. And Recover Vitality. You have a pool of 10 d10s. As a bonus action, you can expend dice from the pool, roll those dice, and regain a number of hit points equal to the dice rolls total. You regain all the expended dice when you finish a long rest. Half your maximum hit points and an average 55 extra hit points per day is pretty sweet. If you're the tough guy tank but not regaining hit points on a super regular basis and thus want the Boon of Fortitude, then this is probably your go-to. But for most people, this is just a really nice perk. Definitely better than the Boon of Fortitude, but not necessarily overwhelmingly so good that everybody should take it. I'm calling this a nay on the too good to pass up. As for how good it is, obviously it's build dependent. If you're running the right kind of build and you just want to have the toughest guy out there, the Boon of Recovery is going to lean hard into what you're looking for. Meanwhile, the Boon of Skill is pretty aptly named. As an all-around adept, you gain proficiency in all skills. And you also have expertise in one skill in which you lacked expertise. If your goal is to be the ultimate skill monkey, then this boon might be too good to pass up. Ironically, if that's your goal, it's also going to mean that you are getting slightly less benefit out of it than others would have, because you probably already picked a class that gave you a whole bunch of skills. Or you might have even picked an origin that gave you the skilled feat. Or for a rogue with a reliable talent ability, this makes you pretty much good at everything, while for everyone else, it's a solid buff. Too good to pass up? I would say no. And as to how good, again, this is very build dependent, and skill monkeys only need apply. If you're looking to build the Flash as your character, then the Boon of Speed does make sense. Its quickness ability increases your speed straight up by 30 feet, but it also gives you the Escape Artist that as a bonus action, you can take the Disengage action, which also ends the grappled condition on you. If your goal is to build the absolute fastest character possible, then this might be too good to multiclass, unless you're able to multiclass into enough things that are going to outdo that 30 feet. The bonus action ability to disengage is not terribly awesome because a lot of the fast classes can get that ability anyway, but the ability to break grapples is cool if you are building something that you think will be kind of fragile. Too good to multiclass? Probably not. In fact, for most, it's pretty easy to leave on the table, even though it's a fun one to play out. How good? I would call this one a niche feat, despite the fact that it is widely flexible, because anybody could take it and it would be a useful sort of buff, but only very, very niche builds are going to actually care about all of the stuff that is built in there to where they want it so badly that they'll pass up on other awesome options to take it. Here we are in the final three as we talk about the Boon of Spell Recall. This one's ability is free casting. Whenever you cast a spell with a level 1 through 4 spell slot, roll a d4. If the number you roll is the same as the spell slot's level, the slot isn't expended. This one is definitely not too good to pass up on. There will be some days when it's awesome, but on average, because you have to roll the exact same number, we're talking a 25% chance every time you cast a spell of you getting another of those low-level spells. On average, that means 1 extra first-level spell and 0.75 per day of a second, third, or fourth level spell slot, with an average of 3.25 low-level spell slots per day for your 19th and onward level character. I'm calling this particular feat crap. It's the only one to make it into that category, and the only way that this feat might climb out of the doghouse is that it's fun to roll, and gamblers might find it enjoyable to be hoping to get that day where you get lucky and get tons of extra spell slots. You might be able to build it into a niche build by playing a diviner who's recovering spell slots already and doubling up on your spell slot recovery in the low-level spell slots, but your chances of it working out in your favor are actually pretty slim. I really wish that they had done something different with this one. The penultimate feat of the book is the Boon of the Night Spirit, which has the coolest name. Let's be honest. It allows you to merge with shadows. While within dim light or darkness, you can give yourself the invisible condition as a bonus action. The condition ends on you immediately after you take an action, a bonus action, or a reaction. Also, shadowy form means that while you are within dim light or darkness, you have resistance to all damage except psychic and radiant. This one came close to making it too good to multi-class out of, because let's be honest, invisibility at the end of every round or before your important attacks, and resistance to all damage is pretty intense. But it's defeated by lighting a torch. If you're creating your own source of darkness, then this might be too good for you to pass up for that build, but otherwise it's awesome, but not all powerful. A nay on the too good front. How good is it though? It is definitely build defining for those people who are creating their own sources of darkness. This will take your Shadow Monk, Gloomstalker Ranger, or Devil-Sided Warlock and amp them up to 11. Then of course there's the final feat, the Boon of Truesight. Simply put, you have True Sight with a range of 60 feet. This ability is broadly useful and cool and can be really helpful when it's needed, but it isn't needed all that often, and it's definitely not too good to pass up. I'm calling this one build dependent just because it has such a wide variety of usefulness. It's very generally useful, and if you need it, you're going to be grateful that you have it, but it's not going to make you all powerful, and you're not going to generally want to pick this one up in favor over a better option. The odds are good that you don't agree with my every thought on these feats, and that's okay. I'd actually really love to hear your thoughts on why I'm wrong, so feel free to leave those down in the comments. Until we get a chance to take some characters all the way up to level 20, I think it's going to be hard for us to really know the answers for these feats anyway. I don't know about you, but I'm excited for the journey to get there. And speaking of journeys, this is the end of the video, and you made it all the way here, which means you're my hero. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. To show it, here's some cute footage of my cats. Thanks for watching. Happy adventuring.
Are you carrying him? Or are you carrying him while you're taping him?
I'm taping him right now. Hey, buddy. What do you think of this?
He's actually pretty okay with it. Such a cat.
Hi.